Well, I think that cities are the laboratories of democracy today, and things like Better Naito give us the opportunity to, in real time, address concerns or ideas, concepts that come from the public.
The Better Naito project was a community-initiated project in conjunction with city agencies and nonprofits to create a safe space and a welcoming environment along Portland's signature Waterfront Park.
So at 5 o'clock in the morning on the Friday, 30 Better Blockers showed up to install Better Naito. Better Naito was a bicycle and pedestrian lane on Naito Boulevard, which is a boulevard that's back-to-back with Waterfront Park.
Naito Parkway is a key arterial on the west side of the Willamette River in downtown Portland, Oregon. This is a roadway that was created from the remnants of Harbor Drive, which is renowned as one of the first freeways in America to be removed and creating this public space. This is what formerly was Harbor Drive behind me.
Well, that was the design of the city leaders when they put this park in again, is they wanted this to be an event space. And so they encouraged people to come down and use this space and show off Portland. I think Randy Leonard, who coined the phrase that this was Portland's front yard. And so actually the Rose Festival was in mind when they decided to do this in I believe it was in the 60s, turn this into an open space.
You know, Waterfront Park is such an iconic story about creating a city for people instead of a city for cars. When, you know, Harbor Drive Expressway was taken out to create this living room where major festivals happen and all sorts of celebrations and art and people exercising and being together. You know, it's so popular though that it's kind of bursting at the seams. And when you have very big events like we have there, there's no room for all the normal activity there. So Better Block really introduced a way to solve some serious safety and comfort issues that were being experienced in the area, and at the same time take a lot of measurements and data both through Portland State University as well as through the city to just see how it works if we took out one travel lane for motor vehicles and then use that space to allow people to have access when they're walking or biking or jogging or rolling or skating or whatever it is to this space that otherwise just didn't feel comfortable and safe.
We chose Naito as our project because we had all sorts of information saying that people were supporting it, both documented and just like word of mouth. We were able to be involved as students because of that. Traditional in engineering, we go through 4 years of theory and math. Like we learn the theories and then we apply it in the designs, and it's very not strict necessarily, but there's guidelines and there's standards and there's rules and equations and all of these things. And that's what I love about transportation in general, is that it has all those technical things, but there's also the people aspect. It's not just this, there's a right answer. It's like, here's the answer that would be ideal, but then you have to think about what every single person on the road is going to do. And they're not always going to do what you want them to do.
Part of being involved in your community is really enjoying the many assets and features of your community. And Naito is a very popular place. It sees a lot of festivals, great parks. But sometimes it's a little intimidating place to drive or walk or bicycle.
The waterfront is Portland's only linear park, is what it is, and it's the backbone of where people walk and run and bike downtown. For businesses downtown, the Better Naito project was a placemaking demonstration. It showed that we can really turn Naito from a barrier into a place that people want to come to, a place that people want to go.
That's one of the, you know, the real beauties of Better Blocks is the ability to kind of have an adaptive policy and practice where we can utilize streets in different ways. I mean, there's times of the week that, you know, the business week when commerce and other things dictate that, you know, we need full use of the streets. And there's other times on weekends and during the summer event season when we have a lot of visitors downtown Portland, and we need to create safe spaces for them to walk with their families and cycle. And I think overall by creating these flexible spaces, it leaves people with a positive experience when they visit Portland.
Portland has a history of innovation in transportation, from the streetcar to one of the best bike networks in the country. And What Better Block is doing sort of takes innovation to a whole new level, because they are having us try experiments. Instead of we decide we're going to do this thing, we know what we're going to do, we're building the infrastructure like the streetcar. Better Block says, well, let's experiment with the new design and see how it works. And if it doesn't work, then we haven't spent millions of dollars doing it. But if it does work, it's something that we can commit to in the future. And that's the kind of innovation that's desperately needed, especially when you don't have much money to work with.
It's one thing to see an idea on a piece of paper, but when you're able to, in a really low-cost way, stage something to give you a sense of how a public space can be reconfigured, it's really powerful. And it does take a lot of creativity to see beyond your current environment. So by being able to set up this temporary pilot so that people can actually touch it and feel it, it bridges the creativity gap. People don't necessarily have to imagine what it feels like in their mind, because they can experience it in a tactile way when they're actually going down there.
Better Blocks makes a better roads festival.
Better safety.
Better business.
Better bureau.
Better capstone, yeah.
Better river.
Better city.